Welcome to the Distance to Empty podcast, the podcast where we talk about 200 plus mile ultramarathons and multi-day events. I am your host, Kevin Goldberg, and as always, I'm joined by everyone's favorite co-host, Peter Noyes. Peter, you are about 12 hours? Less than 12 hours? No, 24 hours. Anyway, you just finished Angela's Crest 100 not too long ago.
Yeah, that's right. I feel surprisingly okay. It's weird. We talked about Badwater versus AC, or Badwater being so sleep deprivation causing, and I think you're right. It's the 2 nights because I was out as much time at AC, and I don't feel quite as bad.
Yeah, because you only missed that one night because it starts early in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we won't put you through too much today because since I've run Bigfoot 3 times and you haven't run it at all, or crewed it or paced it, we'll let you be the introducer of each section, and I'll do the legwork. How's that sound?
It does sound good. Although, as I was doing AC, I was thinking to myself, "Wow, like the stats on Bigfoot is basically 2 ACs." So,
Ouch.
a lot to it.
Bigfoot's a really hard race. I mean, I've done it 3 times and I absolutely love it. We'll dive into it, but it's a hard race. I mean, people listening who are about to go do Bigfoot for the first time, you are in for a treat. It is a really fun race, a really beautiful race, magical race, but it makes you work for it. All right, before we dive into Bigfoot, a couple of housekeeping notes. Peter, we have a new sponsor. Yeah, you know who it is. Did you end up getting a package yet?
I haven't looked, but
Yeah.
I'll do that after.
It's one that you should be really excited about because you were a big fan of these guys for a long time. I got my shoes yesterday, and I've been running in the trail shoes by them for a couple of months now. I guess let's see, I wore them when I was out at Badwater. It's been at least a month and a half, maybe two. And the trail shoes are sweet. I'll be lining up here the same day as you guys at Bigfoot. I'm running the Wyoming Range 100, which starts the same day as Bigfoot this year, and I'll be wearing the Mount to Coast T1s, the new trail shoes, and we are super stoked to be partnering with Mount to Coast. Peter's been running in their road shoes. He did the entirety of Badwater in the R1s, and these trail shoes that they just came out with are pretty amazing. Can't wait to get our hands on I think they're called the H1. They're like hybrid trail shoes. The ones that are out now, the T1s, they're more like full-on aggressive trail shoe, which is perfect for a race like Bigfoot. Well, I don't recommend you go get new shoes now one day before Bigfoot and run the race in new shoes, but I've really been digging these, and we're super excited to be partnering with Mount to Coast. So much more to come. We'll do some more diving into what that means for us and why you should give them a shot. But yeah, Peter, any Mount to Coast kudos to throw out before we move on?
Yeah, no, I've been using Mount to Coast for a couple of years now. I actually did javelina in Mount to Coast road shoes, and yeah, that worked really well. So yeah, I think their big thing is they're focusing on durability of shoes, making shoes that can last way longer than the typical 300-mile recommendation out there. So I think it's a perfect pairing with this sport, us trying to go farther and farther.
Yeah, heck yeah, I've got at least 300 miles on the T1s, and that's what I'll be wearing at Wyoming Range. So they're still going strong. And as per usual, we're also sponsored by John G. We'll mention John G more later in the episode, but if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, that we are big John G fans, and we will hook you up with a free hat if you place an order on our behalf. So more details on how to do that later in the episode. And we're working with Mount to Coast to get some cool swag promos as well for those who order those shoes. So cool. Let's get to Bigfoot, shall we?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So the Bigfoot 200, I've done it 3 times. One of my favorite races of all times. This year it is starting at 12 p.m. on Friday, August 8th. A couple of changes for this year that were supposed to be for last year, but of course we had the crazy reroute last year where they had the fires and they had to ultimately do an out and back version from Randall out to Klickitat and back several times. So this is the first year in the last couple of years where they're getting to run the full course. A couple of changes from the 2023 race. One of those being the 12 p.m. later start on Friday. Good news with this later start is you get to sleep in a little bit and makes the whole morning situation with the shuttle buses down to Marble Mountain much less stressful and smoother. The hard part about this is you are starting in a hot part of the race at the heat of the day. So not much reprieve from the heat in the morning. Granted, back when the race started at 9, I mean, you guys know it can get hot at like 10 a.m. So it's not like you were really escaping the heat. So if anything, maybe you're getting closer to the cool off at the end of the day here. So this year's course looks a lot like 2024 was supposed to. Few big reroutes from what would have been in 2023. So let's just dive into it. Peter, what's up first?
All right, so the first section here is the start to Blue Lake. It's 12.2 miles, 3,200 feet of gain and 2,700 feet of loss. It looks just you go up and then you go down. A couple comments here, maybe some water, a boulder field, but I mean it's the start of the race, so I'm sure this goes by quickly.
Yeah, this one does go by quick. I mean, all these sections or most of these sections of Bigfoot, like you look at the amount of change, the total up and down in the distance, and they all seem really hard, but this one doesn't feel that hard, and it's probably just because of the race excitement and the race getting kicked off. But this one does seem to go by pretty quick. The couple of things to notice here are the boulder fields for people who are maybe not used to running out in places like this. They may slow you down. Just watch your footing. They're not terrible, but they can get pretty, you can get like, the crowds can get caught up on them. Like if you're in the middle of the pack, there might be a little bit of a line when crossing the boulder fields. I would say don't worry about passing, just sort of, be patient and work your way through them. They're not too bad. The streams for the most part on day one, there's a couple of exceptions, but a lot of the stream is like glacial runoff, so it's very silty. So your filters will work. They'll filter it out clean water, but it will probably gum up the filter and make the filter potentially unusable for the rest of the race. So I would say only filter from the silty streams if you're desperate, which I have been in this race, and I have filtered from those streams before. I mean, I think the biggest thing you could do on this start to Blue Lake is one, energy is going to be high, so just make sure you don't overcook with that 12 p.m. start. Like, take care of yourself. Focus on getting to Blue Lake and then doing what you need to at Blue Lake, because this next section is a beast and one of the biggest changes from previous years.
Yep. So this next section is Blue Lake to Coldwater Lake. It is 25 miles, 4,000 feet up, 4,600 feet down. So just looking at the elevation profile here, it looks like a sawtooth. There's no one big climb here. It's just a lot of up and down. And yeah, it sounds like this is quite a doozy. Rope assisted descents. I want to know what that is, Kevin.
Yeah, so I mean, this section used to be broken up. There used to be two aid stations in between here before getting to Coldwater. So it used to be Blue Lake to Windy Ridge to Johnson Observatory, and then Johnson Observatory to Coldwater Lake. So they are really throwing a big section at us here. Granted, you don't have to do the out and back to Windy Ridge, so it's not quite as long as it would be, but it's a big stretch. There used to be a section on here that had something called the Oasis, which had like delicious crystal clear water. They rerouted it so you do not hit the Oasis anymore. So I would recommend cameling up at Blue Lake. Bring a ton of fluids, bring a ton of food, like prepare to be fully self-supported, unsupported here for this 25 plus mile stretch. Peter, like you said, it is lots of up and down. So most of this is taking place in the blast zone until the very end, where you dive back down to the trees. So this is going to be fully exposed in the heat of the day. I mean, most people are going to be getting to Blue Lake in 3 to 5 hours, or maybe 2 to 6 hours, let's say. So you're still looking at some heat getting through this section here. Lots of up and down. So that vert you never feel like you're really getting 4,000 feet. You're just kind of constantly going up or down. Some real runnable stretches here. Given that it's early in the race, like you can run a lot of this stuff. The rope-assisted descents and climbs are, at one point you go down into like a bigger sort of runoff river valley, and there's some ropes on the way down, and then ropes to get up the side and back up on the trail again. If you're mid-pack, this generally will be a line waiting to use the ropes, because you can only go one at a time. Again, I would use it as an opportunity to eat, take a beat, and not worry about it, because that's normal. That happens at this race, but there can be a bit of a backup there. So use those ropes, be safe, don't hurt yourself in the blast zone. A lot of people blow up in this section here. There's always carnage, people sitting on the side of the trails, getting zapped by the heat, running out of water. So take care of yourself and know that like it's kind of survival mode till you get to Coldwater. But then approaching Coldwater, so when you pass like what would have formerly been Johnson Observatory aid station, it is a nice, long, very runnable descent down to Coldwater Lake. The second half of this stretch from Blue Lake to Coldwater is probably some of the easiest, best running on this course. So if you take good care of yourself and, then maybe the sun starts to go down, you can make some really good time heading into Coldwater Lake, where, in my opinion, is kind of where the race starts.
That sounds a little like day one Cocodona with that section. Just got to fight your way through that thing. And like I said, race starts once that carnage is over. So this next section is Coldwater Lake to Norway Pass. So this is another long section, 18.7 miles. And this one has even more climbing than the previous section, over 5,000 feet of gain with 3,900 feet of loss. You were saying it was some easy miles heading into the aid station. It looks like you get a few easy miles headed out too. It is flat for a bit, but then it's just one massive climb. And it sounds like it hits the high point of the course.
Yeah, so Coldwater is a great place to kind of take your first, longer break. First time you'll see crew. It's probably the first time you'll see hot food at the aid station. Granted, it's only the second aid station now. It used to be the fourth. But yeah, Coldwater Lake is a great place to sort of reset and get ready for the majority of night one and the first, what I consider really, really hard section of this course. So, Peter, as you mentioned, you do have like 4+ miles of flat alongside the lake. Which is nice. You can either make some great time there, or you can walk out of Coldwater with some food and like move well while you're eating and taking care of yourself, and sort of just ease into that section, knowing that you have, a good 4-mile stretch of very easy. But worth noting, I mean, you take 4 miles out of this 19-mile stretch, which has over 5,000 feet of gain and nearly 4,000 feet of loss. Now it's a section with 9,000 feet of change in 14, 15 miles, because it's more concentrated when you consider that flat section at the beginning. So a lot of people will try to chug some fluids that they took from the aid station on this section during that flat 4-mile stretch. And then there is a bridge just before you leave the lake and start climbing, where there's some clean water flowing under, and you can filter that and camel up again for the climb. Once you leave the lake and start climbing, you're heading up to Mount Margaret, which is the high point of the course, like you mentioned, Peter. It's a brutal climb. The trails are in pretty good shape for this stretch, but it is just a grunt of a climb. Very steep, very consistent, very beautiful. If you happen to be there during the day, it's really, really pretty back here. Eventually, you'll get to the out and back, which goes up to Mount Margaret. There's 3 of these on the course. Out and backs to hit Little Mountains. All of the out and backs are pretty short. So once you hit that out and back, know that you are almost to the high point of the section you're on. So the out and back to Mount Margaret, views in every direction, really, really pretty. You should have cell service on top of all the peaks on this course, and this course does not have much cell reception. So overall, you'll be pretty remote and cut off, but a lot of people like to take a second at the peaks here, check on their friends, family. I've heard that a lot of people up on top of Mount Margaret are opening their Apple Podcast app and leaving distance to empty reviews from the top. It's all the rage. So if you're so inclined, you can do that. Yeah, it's just really beautiful up there. Now, with 5,000 feet of gain behind you, you are going to descend down to Norway Pass. Pretty nice runnable descent down to Norway. There's some water sources. Yeah, it's a nice descent. It's a long descent. Lots of descending down to Norway Pass. There is a sketchy section. I shouldn't say sketchy. It's more of a consequential section where if you fell, it wouldn't be great. So just be careful on that descent. The footing should be fine. You should be good. You've probably heard people talk about it. It's not too bad. You just have to make sure that you are being aware and paying attention to your footing, which hopefully you still have your wits about you. They actually posted a picture of it. I'm looking at it right now in the Facebook group, and you can see it's just like if you fell, it wouldn't be great, but overall, it's not too bad, and it's short. It's maybe 25, 30 feet. So cool. That's the Coldwater to Norway Pass. Real beast of a section. If you get lucky enough to do it during the day, at least you're rewarded to some amazing views, but this is one that you'll look back on and remember it being a hard section.
So this next section looks like you get a little bit of a break. It's only 11 miles, 2,000 feet up, and about 1,500 feet down, which is funny because the race I just did, 11 miles, I think is the longest stretch. So it's just wild, some of these tunes. But yeah, 11 miles. Again, there's no flat here. It's all up and down. But even so, yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a break from what you just did.
Yeah, these next couple of sections are a little more forgettable in a good way. So Norway Pass is a sleep station. It's a great place if you found it too early to sleep at Coldwater. Norway is a great place to take a break before heading over to Elk Pass. But this 11-mile stretch, 2,000 feet of up, 1,600 feet of down, It's pretty nondescript in a good way. It's just sort of a little bit easier than everything you've already done. You're sort of transitioning from that, day one volcanic blast zone terrain more into that classic deep Pacific Northwest forest where you won't see the sun as much and you'll be down in that green tunnel. It's just kind of mentally easier, these sections here. So you're actually kind of entering Bigfoot's backyard here on this section where you'll stay until you poke out again up in Randall. I'm seeing if Adam, who's done the course marking here, has any intel on this section here. I did hear that a lot of the ruts in this section have been filled in quite a bit. So one thing Bigfoot's really known for is like big rutted out sections from dirt bikes. So if that's true, if the ruts in this section have been filled in a little bit and are better than previous years, that's going to be really, really nice for runners this year. Because that's really annoying when your trekking poles are up above your shoulders and you're walking in like a deep V of a rut. Can get old pretty quick. So yeah, if that's true, that's going to be great. And that's what Adam says. He did this section on August 2nd. So pretty recent intel there. But yeah, this section, really nice, easy section after a very hard one.
Nice. And then the next section, like you said, a little longer, 15 miles, but still nothing like those first couple sections. This one is Elk Pass to Road 9327. It is 2,500 feet of gain, over 3,000 feet of loss. And this one looks like a little bit of a sawtooth climb going up, followed by just a long descent at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, this section, it's another one of those ones that kind of just feels like a connector section where, again, you're still in that transition, really pretty Pacific Northwest type terrain here. You peek out a couple of times and get some views. The course report from Adam here, the scouting says that there have been quite a bit of blowdowns, but they were able to clear some of them and make them easier to go around, over, under, through. Bigfoot's known for its big tree blowdowns that go over the trail, and you have to becomes almost like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan race sometimes. This section historically has a lot of those blowdowns and those trees. So they did a little bit of work, tried to make those easier for you, but do expect to be jumping over some trees, going under them, sometimes just kind of wedging your way through them. Another section here in Bigfoot that is historically very rutted out. It sounds like this year it's still pretty rutted out, but maybe not as bad as previous years. Some improvement done on these trails there too, but still expect to be running and hiking in some rutted out trails, which easier if you're expecting it, I think. But yeah, you'll have a really long runnable section once you kind of top out on this section down to 90. And 9327 is a swimming hole where if it's the heat of the day and it's warm out, I've jumped in there, I think 2 out of my 3 Bigfoots, and then, change shoes, change my outfit. Really nice to just be able to dunk and sort of reset at 9327. And yeah, I think this is the beginning of a long stretch without crew. So if you have crew, this is a place where you're really going to want to take good care of yourself, maybe take some time and reset here.
Yeah, the worst I've ever felt in an ultra was at Ouray, and you made me go in that waterfall. So I think, if you are struggling, if the heat's getting to you, it's definitely worth it, to plunge there, I would think, even if it, takes some time. Yeah, I don't, that might have been a DNF if I didn't have that waterfall at Ouray. Okay, and then the next section here is 9327 to Spencer Butte. Another shorter section, 11 miles with 2,800 feet of gain and also 2,800 feet of loss. Looks like you start with a descent and then a small climb and then a bigger climb to end this one.
Yeah, so this section has always been really hard for me. I don't know if it's because it's the first section in a really, really long stretch without crew. If you have crew, if you're relying on crew, I think that's great. And they're going to be so helpful at this race. But this is a really long stretch you're about to start without crew. It's going to take you, most runners, probably the better part of a 24-hour period. I would really make sure you leave 9327, have a meal, sleep if you can, drink a ton, leave here like you're starting a new race, because this is a very hard stretch. 9327 to Spencer Butte. I mean, it's only 11 miles, but it's over 5,000 feet of change, 28 up, 28 down. That's a lot of gain and loss squeezed into a very short section as far as this race goes. So I think that's also why this one always seems so hard. It's just hard. Yeah. So it's So descent to start, lots of small climbs, and then a big climb up to Spencer Butte, and then a short descent down into the aid station. So I would mentally prepare yourself for this one. I think sometimes it gets a little overlooked because it's not as big and hard as some of the other sections, but it packs a punch. But it gets up to Spencer Butte, which is a nice aid station right on the side of a small forest road, paved forest road, a nicer, easier section coming after this one, which is welcome before the one after that, which we'll get into.
Yeah, this next one is Spencer Butte to Lewis River. It looks like it's 7.6 miles, only 1,200 feet of gain, but it does have almost 3,000 feet of loss. And to start, it's you get a little bit of a road section. So, yeah, I'm sure that you can kind of reframe there, after what you just went through.
Yeah, I think, this section is a lot easier, but with about a mile and a half, close to 2 miles of paved road, you're looking at less than 5 miles of because that's flat. So then you're looking at less than 5 miles where this really like 4,000 feet of elevation change is happening. So you're looking at almost 1,000 feet per mile change, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, a lot of people like to either make good time on that mile and a half, 2 mile stretch of road, or again, like take some food and just walk, hike hard and take care of yourself before you jump off the cliff that is the trail down to Lewis River. So when you make the right turn off of the road, that's where your 2,800 feet of descent is coming from. It's really, really steep. It's, like lose your heels out from under you, slip on your butt kind of steep. Luckily, there's not too much that's like super consequential in this area from a fall perspective. If you fall, you're just going to kind of land on soft forest. And, I'm not saying you can't get hurt, but it's not like you're going to fall off a cliff. It's like you're just going to fall on the steep forest side. But I have fallen on my butt on this section. It's very steep downhill, and you're, at this point pretty deep into the race. So your legs might not be as springy as they normally are. So yeah, I would say poles for sure on that downhill. It's a technical drop down the bluff trail down to the Lewis River trails. The good news is when you get down to the Lewis River trails, they're really nice trails. They're well groomed, they're buffed out, they're rolling along the river there. And the lower falls of the Lewis River are it's one of the most beautiful scenic sections of the course. So if you see the falls during the day, you are in for a treat. It's really, really pretty. Yeah, so that's where you get that 1,200 feet of gain, is when you get down to the river. There's a lot of up and down rolling. But man, it's so pretty down there, and you'll enter sort of the Lewis River campground area, which is like a outdoorsy, touristy area. So if you hit it during the day, you'll see other campers, other hikers, stuff like that. But Lewis River is no longer crew or pacer accessible. So this is, again, in the middle of that long stretch without crew and pacers. And as we'll get into here, this next section is tough. So Lewis River is another good one to sort of take a beat at and take care of yourself before you head on over to Quartz Ridge.
Yeah, this next one, the stats look scary. I'm glad I'm not doing this. So it is Lewis River to Quartz Ridge, 17.2 miles with 7,300 feet of gain and 4,500 of loss. And looking at this, it's just kind of net uphill the whole way. Just a lot of variation as it just goes up and up and up and up.
Yeah, this is arguably the hardest section on this race. I think you could make a argument that Klickitat to Twin Sisters is more difficult given where it's at in the race and for other various reasons. But this is a tough section. One thing to note, if it's wet, if you're doing it in the morning and there's a bunch of dew and moisture, or if it's been raining, this section can get a bit overgrown. So it can be like pretty, like all the leaves and plants and trees and stuff will sort of like cave in on the course, and it'll feel like you'll wish you had a machete. A lot of people always ask like what the number one piece of gear is for Bigfoot, and I'm like, well, you probably would be best off bringing a chainsaw, and that's where that would come in handy on this section. So this section, like for the first few miles, up and down, more of those like along the river trails where you're net climbing, but you're kind of staying along the river and going up and down. And then eventually you lose the river and start climbing steadily up to the ridge. It's a stout climb. It's very remote, rugged trails, faint trails. This is a difficult section. And it's a long section too. So I would expect this to be one of your slower sections from a moving speed perspective. Lots of water access here. So if you have a filter, you're going to be able to filter. I think Adam, during his marking, said there was mile 4.5, 6, 9.5, 10, 10.5 miles in. So you have lots of opportunity to filter from creeks, but I would definitely leave Lewis River prepared for this section because it's a tough one. Really, really I feel like this section is like as classic Pacific Northwest as you can get. It's very pretty, very deep pine forest. And yeah, I mean, as hard as the section is, I always love this section. This is where it feels like you're really in it. This is where you're actually running Bigfoot here.
All right. Then the next section is Quartz Ridge to Chain of Lakes, 16 miles, 3,800 feet of gain, 4,000 feet of loss. This one looks like it has a lot of variation, though, a lot of up and down. The biggest sustained climb, looks like it's only 1,000 feet. So, and there's even some flat sections here. So maybe this one isn't quite as bad as the previous.
Yeah, it's not, and it's interesting because the numbers still are like crazy, and you do end up running Bigfoot. I mean, when I've tracked it, it's true to its metrics of 206-ish miles with 40+ thousand feet of gain. So this is nearly 8,000 feet of change over 16 miles is still a lot, but this one definitely feels a lot easier than the previous one. The section from Lewis River to Quartz Ridge with like a just under 2 mile out and back down to the aid station. You'll be able to see your crew again at Quartz Ridge, so they'll be able to pick up the pieces and put you back together, and that'll be great. You might see some other runners on this, nearly 2 mile out and back, covering 4 miles of the course. Because if you're moving in a linear fashion, you might not realize that you're close to people, but then when you turn around doing out and back, hopefully you see some friends, and that can liven your spirits after a tough section. So that out and back is a little tough because you do go downhill to get to it, and then have to do a pretty stout climb back up to Quartz Ridge to get back on the course. And then Quartz Ridge to Chain of Lakes. Basically, you climb up Council Bluff and then descend down to Council Lake, which is in the Chain of Lakes area. You could swim there. A couple of different lakes you could dip in on this section. This is one of the more, at least deeper in this race, one of the more runnable sections. There's some fire roads. There's some, like you said, some flatter sections, and you can move pretty well on this. There's a 2 mile paved section, sort of at not the very end of the section, but in the middle/end of this section. So basically you pop out and you head towards the Chain of Lakes area, which is another really popular touristy camping kind of area or day use, like where people are enjoying the lakes. So you'll hit 2 miles of pavement there where you can move really well, and then a short single track into the Chain of Lakes aid station. Pretty section here. Definitely easier than the other ones, and you'll see your crew at Quartz Ridge and then again at Chain of Lakes. So you will be back in good shape here.
Okay, and then the next one is Chain of Lakes to Klickitat. So I know not much about Bigfoot, but I feel like anyone who ever tells me about Bigfoot, they always mention Klickitat. So I don't know if that's an iconic part of the course or just fun to say, but yeah, this one is 17.3 miles. It's almost 4,000 feet of gain and the same loss. And yeah, it looks like this one has a long sustained climb at the end.
Yeah. Klickitat. I think it's both. Klickitat's fun to say, and it's also a really, really hard section. So, this is actually probably my favorite section on this course, from Chain of Lakes to Klickitat. I think it's just so pretty. I really like the river crossings here. So there's going to be 3 wet feet river crossings on this section where you will get your feet wet, no choice. The first crossing is like 1.5 miles in. There is a bridge over that first crossing, but the second water crossing is like 3.5 miles in, then another one at 4.5, and then down at 10 or 11 miles in is where you cross the big Sisyphus River, which is the biggest crossing on this section here. So it's flat, rolling, net downhill pretty much through all these crossings, and then it bottoms out at the Sisyphus River, and then you do a pretty stout climb up to the top of Elk Peak before a short descent down to the Klickitat aid station. So some things I like to recommend on this section here is it can be helpful to carry a spare set of socks. A lot of people like to change their socks after crossing the Sisyphus because you have a long climb up to the top of Elk Peak, and it can be just nice to do it in fresh socks. So the crossings are not too bad here, in my opinion. It really depends on the year, how fast the water's moving, but the big crossing across the Sisyphus it's a wide crossing, so it's a pretty big, wide river, but it's pretty slow moving. It's clear, soft bottom, and pretty nice. I mean, if it's during the daytime, you'll probably spend some time there and cool off and enjoy the water. Lots of people see bears, mountain lions, all sorts of things on this section. Definitely one of the sections more known for wildlife, so that's a fun thing, I think. Don't worry, those things aren't out to hurt you. Just make noise if you see them, scare them away. But yeah, really pretty section. Lots of huckleberries and blueberries on the side of the trail, so enjoy those, but don't waste too much time eating them, and do some Googling to identify which berries are safe to eat because they're really tasty. When you bottom out and cross the Sisyphus River and begin your climb up Elk Peak, I just remember there being, especially if you do this during the day, so many false summits on the way up to Elk Peak. Like I kept thinking like, oh, this is going to be it. And then like you just keep climbing, climbing, climbing. So it's 5 miles up. Just remember that it's going to take a long time and the false summits are going to take a little bit of your soul each time, but eventually you'll get to the top of Elk Peak. There is, again, cell service at the top of Elk Peak, and I swear people are leaving reviews for Distance Empty on top of Elk Peak too. So without that phone and 5 stars, please. But the service at top of Elk Peak is just on the summit. You'll lose it pretty quickly once you come down. And yeah, about a mile down to Klickitat aid station from there. And historically, Klickitat has been a non-crewable aid station, but this year they are allowing crew, and that's going to be kind of a game changer, I think, because you'll be able to change shoes and socks after all those water crossings. You'll be able to maybe sleep in a car before a really difficult section. Historically, it's not even been a sleep station, so it's kind of hard to get rest here and go into it right.
Awesome. That sounds huge to be able to really rest there. Because this next one does look bad. It's a Klickitat to Twin Sisters, 19.4 miles, and this is just about 5,000 feet up and then also 5,000 feet down. The profile here is the most sawtooth of any of them I've seen so far. There's got to be at least 10 little peaks here along the way, and it sounds like this just might be game trails. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. All right. Thanks for listening. No, this section is so hard. Like, I think this is the hardest section. A lot of people say it's Lewis River to Quartz Ridge, but I think this is the hardest section. And it's because, yeah, there's a ton of gain. I mean, like 5,000 up, 5,000 down. It's long. It's almost 20 miles long. The trails are faint. Historically, the markers have been sort of hard to mark on this section because the trails are so faint. It's overgrown. There's disappearing trails. There's exposure. There's blowdowns, trees over the trails. A lot of the like sections, like if you're watching on YouTube, it's like steep mountainside, short little trail, and then steep mountainside down. And it's like if you were to like slip and fall, it would be bad. So it's just a lot of really tough terrain. This is, I think, the number one section to have a pacer on for sure in the whole race. Not a bunch of water sources on this one, and the ones that are there are like still water, like mosquito land. And this is the section I've had the most issues with bugs. Just if you like sit or try to sleep, the mosquitoes are all over you. I've tried to sleep on this section almost every year unsuccessfully because it's also like where it is in the race. It's like you'll be at your peak tiredness. So this section is just really, really hard. So be prepared, leave Klickitat ready to go. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild and beautiful and awesome section. I think you can, if you're feeling good here, you'll enjoy it. If you're not, it'll beat you up. This section ends with a 2.7 mile out and back to Twin Sisters Aid. That'll be fun because hopefully you'll see a couple of people again, similar to that Quartz Ridge thing where like, maybe you've been feeling lonely for a while because you're moving in a linear way. And then like, hey, you're realizing that people are pretty close and you're seeing people as you go back against them. Also, our good friend Helgi is the aid station captain at Twin Sisters, and he is going to be taking great care of you guys. He told us to say that if you mention Distance Empty there, you get free bacon on your burritos, which of course is true for every aid station, but hold him to it. Yeah. Once you get to Klickitat though, things are looking up. I mean, Twin Sisters, once you get through the Klickitat section, things are looking up.
Yeah. This next one, Twin Sisters to Owens Creek, is 16 miles, but it looks like it's net downhill. So I think from here on out in this race, it's the kind of climbing's behind you. So I got to imagine, 29 miles from the finish at Twin Sisters. So you're probably starting to get all that finish line energy going, and you can feel like the worst is behind you.
Yeah, this section can be hard, but it's generally a lot easier than the ones you've already done. The biggest thing that's made this one hard in the past has been the blowdowns. Like this section is notorious for just like fully healthy pine trees blown down on the trail. So not only you're hopping over logs, you're hopping like through branches that still have all their needles on and stuff. But I've heard that it's looking pretty good this year and that it's in decent shape. So if it's in good shape, this section is awesome. It's you go out and back from Twin Sisters the same way you came, so another 2.7 miles, and then you start the climb up to Pompeii Peak. Very short out and back up to Pompeii Peak. Really cool to be up there because you can see where you've came from. You can look back down to Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams. You can see Mount Rainier. Super awesome views from up there, and it's a very short out and back, quarter mile or so. up to Pompeii Peak. Again, you'll have cell service at the top of Pompeii Peak. You'll actually have cell service mostly from Pompeii Peak to the finish. A few sections you'll lose it, but you'll be pretty much in cell service to the finish here, which is great if you want to check in on family, friends, kind of do something to, wake up your mind and occupy yourself, or just continuously leave Distance to Empty podcast reviews over and over again. But yeah, this long descent once you leave Pompeii Peak, which is only super difficult if there's all those blowdowns. If not, it's a nice descent all the way down to the Green Tunnel, which is an old forest road that has been taken back by the forest. Some years it's in decent shape and you can move pretty well on it. Some years it's pretty overgrown and you have to be careful not to bust your ankles, but it's flat, maybe even gently downhill into Owens Creek from there. And once you get to Owens Creek, man, smooth sailing to the finish.
Yeah, it looks like Owens Creek to the finish has got to be the easiest part of this thing. Mostly road, it looks like. The last 10 miles, the flat road section. So yeah, 13 miles total, 385 feet up and 1,600 feet of down. I think the only thing I can think of is if your running legs are done at this point, maybe it's kind of demoralizing to have to hike for 10 miles on a road. But other than that, it should be easy.
Yeah. The only thing slowing you down here is going to be your own fatigue. It's like 3 or 4 miles of like steep downhill forest road, like hard packed dirt road in really good shape, the kind of road that you'd bomb down if you were fresh. You'll see other crew vehicles parked on the side of the road going up to Owens Creek. And then when you get to the road, you've only got about less than 10 miles to go. You make a left onto the paved road, and it's 385 feet of gain come off that road. Like there's a little bit of rolling terrain, but it's really pretty flat / downhill. It can be hot. If the weather's warm, it'll be really warm on the pavement and in Randall. So that can be kind of mentally challenging after, 3, 4, 5 days out there. And now it's just like 90 degrees and you're on the pavement. But it's great to be entering back into civilization. I mean, Randall doesn't feel like much civilization, but it sure will after the journey you've been on. There's a gas station that I've stopped in, I think 2 out of my 3 years. It's like less than 2 miles from the finish, but I'm just like, I want a chocolate milk or I want a Gatorade. And I've just dropped in there and gotten something last minute. So that's right across the road in Randall. And then, you make a right and you eventually get to the White Pass High School, where you finish with a 3/4 lap of the track, similar to Western States. And then you go pick out your buckle. You did it.
Awesome. Yeah. Bigfoot in 42 minutes. Easy.
See, if we can do Bigfoot in 42 minutes, you guys can do it in 110 hours or whatever the cutoff is. 116?
I'm not sure. We should know that.
We should know that. I knew it at one point. So, while Peter looks up the overall cutoff.
107.
107, okay. Some other things just to kind of be aware of. I mean, we mentioned filtering water. I definitely recommend grabbing a filter if you haven't already. The course is pretty rugged and remote. Like, obviously, you're required to have the GPX file on Gaia and on your watch and all that stuff. I'd recommend not only having it, but being, it's not too late to learn and use it. Like, figure out how to use it, because you're gonna be taking it out from time to time. Sleep early often if you can get a sleep. Like, tell your crew to like let you bank a little bit. Sometimes falling asleep is the hardest part, so don't discount like the value of like just being able to get to sleep and maybe take a little more than you planned. Yeah. Peter, any tips on the course that you don't know anything about?
The only thing I've heard is if you have crew, is just make sure that they know that they're going to be driving a tremendous amount.
No, that's a good point. Like, this is a journey for the crew too. So the crew should be self-sufficient. They should know they're not going to have cell service. They should have all the food and water and comfort items they need. They are also in the wilderness this whole time. So make sure the crew is well prepared physically and mentally for this endeavor. Yeah, we think Bigfoot's awesome. You guys are in for a treat. We hope you found some value in this course overview, and we thank you for listening. We did a preview last year, so if you want more, who knows? We didn't go and re-listen to that preview, so it's probably some of the same, but it might be valuable to check that out too, as the course hasn't changed too much. So that was in August of last year, and we'll get this out tomorrow, which will be August 5th. So you'll have about 48 hours to binge this a couple of times before the big show. Can't wait to track everyone. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. Cool. What else we got? That's it. Sweet. We did it. All right. Good luck, Bigfoot runners. If you enjoyed the preview, if you enjoyed the podcast, and you're new to Distance to Empty, I know our course previews sometimes bring in some new listeners. Check us out. We're bringing 200 plus mile content each week to you guys. We cover all the major topics. We talk to awesome guests in the 200 space, lots of doctors, dietitians, sports scientists, stuff like that. Trying to keep it fresh and interesting for you, and we love having you along for the ride. So get in touch, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Good luck, run smart, run strong, stay away from Bigfoot, and have fun.